Alright guys, what's up? My name's Jim. I'm here to talk to you about privacy and AI and what the implications are on privacy by the advent of AI. I think we had named this year, it's probably the year of AI. I don't know if this is true, but I heard something like the person of the year is AI. It's pretty crazy. I don't blame them. It's a pretty crazy productive tool, but there's also a lot of consequences I think we need to think about right now. And we need to, especially as Bitcoiners, we need to think about how to position ourselves, and just as human beings, we need to think about how to position ourselves effectively with the advent of this new technology that I think is, probably internet, Bitcoin, and AI are the most consequential technology of the last 3 decades. So let's get into it. My name is Jim, aka Uncle Jim 21. You don't have to call me Uncle. This is the NIM. I'm an ATX-based software developer and entrepreneur, and my background spans from hardware and firmware to software systems. And and if you look at my history, I used to work at a company called Lutron. If you ever heard of that, it's lighting control technology. I also worked at Stanley Black & Decker, so we're trying a bunch of power tools. You have a power tool in your shed, it's most likely that I've had something to do with it. That was my fiat life. Now I work on Sphinx Chat, which is a privacy-focused application. I'm also building a new application called Cascdr, which is also a privacy-focused application with a much different use case. So you can kind of see the upper half is sort of my fiat life, and the bottom half is my real life, the real Bitcoin life. So let's get into privacy. That's the main topic of this discussion. This is going to be a pretty quick discussion. I just want to run through it and then kind of open it up to the floor and get your all take on the consequences of AI, privacy, and what y'all think. So what is privacy? There's privacy and there's secrecy. So secrecy is keeping information completely concealed in the pursuit of some goal. So there may be cases where privacy and secrecy overlap, but privacy is really just about the right to selectively choose what you reveal about yourself to the public, right? So the old saying is, this is Matt Odell, without privacy, you can't have freedom, and without freedom, you can't have wealth. So, if you're living in a society where you're being surveilled all the time, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to protect yourself from blackmail and other types of threats from predators, and that is why privacy is so important. In Bitcoin, it's not just about Bitcoin, it's about freedom, it's about sovereignty, it's about protecting ourselves from whatever comes, be it governments, be it other men, or be it the elements. Money really at its core is about protecting yourself from uncertainty. So part of the uncertainty we need to consider is our privacy. So let's look at the status quo. So I think probably the most discussed topic is the surveillance economy. We have the communist press that will probably focus on the corporate aspect, and they have every right to. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of, every time you visit a site, they're logging what you're doing. They're using that to try to sell you ads, to try to sell you some other stuff you don't need, to try to get you to consume more and more. We resist that as Bitcoiners, just from the standpoint of low time preference, but also just from the standpoint of they have no right to do that, right? But beyond the corporate aspect of that, we also have the government aspect of that. So we have the PRISM program. Edward Snowden, hero, revealed that. Likewise, we have the Twitter files. So we've learned in the last year and a half that the government is coercing social media companies into giving up data about users and trying to suppress certain kinds of speech that they don't like, which is a direct violation of the First Amendment. In a lot of ways, the Constitution is Swiss cheese, if you ask me. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm an agorist. I don't really buy into the Constitution. I think it's a great idea, but as far as enforcing those things, you might as well go up to a police officer and start shouting hocus pocus, because it really really has no power. So it's really up to us as technologists to invent our way out of this problem and just make it so they take it from don't tread on me to can't tread on me, right? So in the Twitter files, you have the libs of TikTok docs. Kind of knew this before the Twitter files, but I think Twitter, I don't know if Twitter collaborated, but the German intelligence supplied Taylor Lorenz, our favorite journalist, with the information that docs, middle-aged, American woman for running a TikTok or a Twitter account that she didn't like, that simply just, simply reposted things that people from the left wing happen to be posting. Not that I care too much about what the persuasion of that person is, but it's scary that there are, intelligence agencies that are bothering themselves with, who's sharing what on social media. That seems like a pretty gross violation of the First Amendment. So there's that. There's AT&T collaborating with the NSA, so this is relatively new. The whistleblower has been vindicated. There's a senator out of Wyoming. Is it Ron Wyden?
Out of Wyoming?
Yeah.
That's Loomis.
No, Wyden.
Oh.
It's a different guy.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, so there's a senator or representative out of Wyoming that's just making all this public. AT&T is just assisting the government and just tapping into the backbone of the internet. And in between when I wrote these slides this afternoon and now, it's become apparent that Apple has been coerced into giving up information about the notifications they're sending to people. So it literally is, it's so, surveillance is so pervasive I can't even keep up with it, but that's another interesting tidbit that's very similar to the AT&T case. And then just looking at passive collection, I mean, obviously this might have a corporate interest, but we have Google Chrome, Gmail, Amazon plugins, all kinds of SMS just being passively collected and stored indefinitely. Even encrypted information is being stored by the NSA in the hopes that someday they'll be able to decrypt it. Once they get a hold, of the keys to decrypt it. So, a lot going on here. And it really is the question: do we really live in a free country? Do we really have any privacy whatsoever? So getting into the more logistical aspects, that's the previous slides. The what is the how. How do you leak your privacy? There's numerous ways. I haven't encapsulated all of them, but trying to capture the top four. The top four being sign-ins, especially Google, Facebook, Amazon. They'll track you all over the internet. If you let them dump a cookie into your browser, they'll know everything that you're doing. Likewise, credit card purchases, they're able to KYC that information. They're able to correlate that to your legal name and figure out what you're doing. Likewise, unfettered access to cookies. So talk about the previous sign-ins, but there's other clever techniques people pull that maybe even aren't apparent with storing cookies in your browser to help track what you're doing. And then the obvious one is the IP address, which is why you should all be running a VPN as soon as possible. You should be buying with non-KYC Bitcoin if you can do that. You know how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, come here, I'll teach you how. But it's imperative that you do that. It's probably the most important thing that you can do to close up your privacy leaks. So let's zoom out. We talked about kind of the status quo. We kind of talked about the revelations we've had in the 2010s since the Snowden revelations. How does AI change the game? We've been, as I said previously, this is the year of AI. How has AI changed the game? And as we all know, AI represents a revolution ability to process big sums of data. It's huge opportunities for individuals. It can massively increase your productivity, but also for big groups like corporations and governments. And I would say, one of the things that I've taken away in the last 10 years, the great Peter Thiel on the Nixon seminar pointed out that in a lot of ways, Bitcoin is a libertarian technology, meanwhile AI in a lot of ways is a authoritarian technology. And that's certainly not totally the case. Obviously, communists can use Bitcoin, libertarians can use AI, obviously, but the interesting thing about that statement is that, AI scales the state, it scales corporations in a way that was never possible because they're able to collect a huge sum of data that kind of benefits from Metcalfe's law, which is the idea that the square of number of items correlates to its value or power. So in other words, the more data that you can collect, that's kind of a square law. So the more, bigger companies, bigger governments are going to be able to collect more data, and therefore they're going to be able to do more interesting things with it with AI, which, in a lot of ways is kind of a misappropriated word. In a lot of ways it's just, it's just data processing, it's machine learning. It takes a lot of names, it's kind of misused. How would you define it, Tom? AI.
That's a good question. I don't know.
It's kind of a buzzword, right? Like it means a lot of things. I mean, but fundamentally it's the ability to predict a future outcome based on past results, based on millions of iterations of training and data, right? I mean, effectively that's what it is, right? So what does that mean for you? I mean, fundamentally, that means that even patterns and behaviors, texts you sent that you thought were buried under a mountain of data can be used decades later. Once it's on, and once it's on the internet, it's there forever. So if you send a text 10 years ago, you're a dumb kid, you sent it, but that's logged, and then that's correlated with other things that you're doing, your purchasing habits, other things that are happening.
Okay, having thought about it, I think the way I define it is like heretofore, if I wanted to do something with the computer, I had to code it, right? I had to give it all the instructions.
Right.
X, Y, Z, A, B, C, blah, blah. Here's the answer. But this is the first time now that you can have a computer do something that you never showed it how to do.
It's top down versus bottom up, right? So instead of trying to play God and say, do this, do that, you're just saying, hey, evolve until what I want you to. This is the goal, this is the starting point, this is the goal, we'll get there, right? So, agreed. This really shows the power of bottom up systems in a unique way. It's ironic in different ways. I would say Bitcoin and AI are both powerful technologies that demonstrate bottom up, right? So, point being that even behaviors, thoughts, patterns that you thought were not detectable, would never be detectable by a police officer, would not be detectable by even the most educated law enforcement officer, can now be detected by an AI system and used against you. So that's terrifying, and the way I look at this, I know this whole slideshow is pretty doomer. I'll try to leave it with a note of optimism, but just look at China, and that's what's possible. And in my personal perspective, the COVID regime has kind of shown, that there's nothing off limits. There were a bunch of things that I thought were off limits for the state. The United States has said, I'm an American, this will never happen. Boy, was I wrong. So the gloves are off. There's really nothing they won't do, as far as I can tell. So I think that's something to think about and take seriously. So in my previous slide, I had a little graphic. This is the China social credit system. So there's a lot going on here. Kind of highlight some of what's going on. So these kind of show. It's funny, they kind of use like integrated circuit diagrams to kind of show how this is all connected. They're trying to systematize the world. They're trying to systematize everything and make it, basically turn you into a pawn on their chessboard, right? Is anyone here familiar with Frederick Winslow Taylor? No? The older crowd's not? So Frederick Winslow Taylor was actually the inventor of the idea of scientific management. And in the early days of manufacturing was actually very useful because what he would do is he would go to a manufacturing plant and he would measure people and he would say, okay, it takes this person this long to take this widget from this point to that point, 8 seconds, and we can create a machine that can help them do it faster, right? So he could identify inefficiencies in the system, help you crank out more widgets, right? But the problem is that tons of people, especially totalitarians, especially communists, took that and said, we're just going to turn the whole world into, a chessboard of measurable numbers, and we're just going to treat people like pawns, and that's effectively what happened. If you ever one of my favorite books is called We by Evgeny Zamyatin. Has anyone heard of that before? Probably Car has, because I won't shut up about it. But it's actually the book that inspired both 1984 and Brave New World, and it's heavily based on that idea that was formed in the early 19th century. In that book, basically describes a world where humans don't even have names anymore, they're just numbers. They're just pawns on the chessboard. And so this is the technological innovations that enable that sort of stuff. So I know, once again, I'm pretty doomer, but look at all of these components. They're looking at your criminal history, your company representatives, your annual reports, approved investment projects in key industries, like what are you doing as an individual, compliance with government regulations, praising the government on social media, what are you doing, are you buying government bonds, all these like little micro behaviors that they're calculating to a final score that decides whether you're allowed to ride a train home to see your family when you're done spending like 3 months in the city busting your ass. And that's the type of stuff they're pulling. Okay, so to me, this is kind of the blueprint that totalitarians are taking and trying to apply elsewhere. Okay? So we talk kind of the doomer side of AI. What's the flip side of AI? I obviously think that AI has benefits and it will most likely improve productivity in a variety of fields. Personally, as a software developer, I think it's helped me just move much faster because there's certain kinds of code that's just tedious and time consuming, but trivial to write. I'm not learning anything new by doing it, but I am spending a lot of my time doing it, so I can just get the assistant to make it for me. I can describe in great detail what it is, and I would say probably about 80% of the time it's right on the first time, and probably by the second try it's 95% right, which is pretty good. Saves me a lot of time, okay? And these tools are much more sophisticated, so because they're much more sophisticated, the surveillance on you is going to get more sophisticated. And I think that collectively we need to find a way to use these tools in a way that is self-sovereign. So as far as I can tell, there's really only two ways to use them in a self-sovereign manner. Use the LLMs like an LLM. ChatGPT is an LLM. It's like the name brand, or it's not the name brand. It's the Coca-Cola of LLMs, but there's all kinds of other LLMs. Many of them are open source, can be used by anyone. But I think collectively we need to find a way to use this powerful technology without giving up our sovereignty. So that means remaining anonymous, deleting the data when it's done, being as self-sovereign as we can when using these. So they're really the two main ways I've come up with, and there could be more. But number one is using L402. So this is the idea of, okay, you're gonna provide me with an LLM service, I'm gonna pay you in Bitcoin, you don't have to know anything about me, I'm gonna use the wonderful privacy properties of Lightning, which are that the sender pretty much has perfect privacy, you have no idea where the money's coming from, all you need to know is, I know the secret, and by paying your invoice, okay? So that gives me privacy, and I get to use your service. Everybody wins. You get to use your service and profit as an entrepreneur, and I get to use it anonymously. Okay, so that's one thing, and I've actually built things like that. I'll get to that at the end. So that's number one, is just use somebody else's service and pay with Lightning. The other option is to build and run your own service and serve that out to others. So just being on the other side of that transaction, putting in the sweat equity to build something like that that other people can use, that you can use, you send out over the internet. And last but not least, this is kind of related, is to, I think there's a route for people to earn money helping develop models. So you look at this and say, well, this is all computer nerd junk, but it's not. I look at it as three things: time, talent, treasure. You may have a talent in something that has nothing to do with computer science, and you're able to look at information and discern whether it's high quality information or not. For example, let's say you know a lot about HVAC, heating, ventilation, and cooling. That has nothing to do with computer science. You can look at data and say, this is good information, this is bad information. You can help curate the information. You can actually create a model and in a way homestead that model. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin and Lightning is that, and the internet, is that you could actually build that model yourself, put it on the internet, and let the market, buy that information. So now when they have an HVAC problem, they can come to you, they can type in a question, you can answer it in a coherent, and effective way and provide value to them, right? So don't just think that because you're not a coder, you can't contribute to this, because there's all kinds of ways to contribute. One of them being if you have a knowledge or expertise or a trade that you're good at, you can help train a model that you can then use as an entrepreneur to help other people and scale in a way that you never could before, right? Like there's no, somebody in Thailand could ask you a question about something that you're really good at, you get paid for it, and you don't have to do anything. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say that this helps the state scale, this helps you scale. So don't be discouraged, but just be aware of the new landscape that we're entering. So just kind of give a topology of how this would work. And I've developed something like this. Basically, the client or your phone, your tablet, your PC could actually send a prompt through a large language model like ChatGPT along with a payment, and then get back the answer from any range of services from a proxy ChatGPT. So in other words, you pay me money, I'll let you have access to my ChatGPT. You can ask it anything you want. As far as it's concerned, I'm asking the question, you're not asking questions, so Tom can pay me. I'll ask a question on his behalf and I'll give him back the result, right? So that's one example. Another one would just be open source, general purpose LLM, like Olama. That's the logo in the top right corner in the second square here. So I could just run that on my own hardware. I can run it on Austin and serve it up to you. And likewise, I could run my own homegrown. Like I said, I could run my own model that is an expert in HVAC or electrical circuits or real estate, spin the wheel, whatever thing that you want it to be an expert in. It'll do that, and it'll serve you the result pretty quickly. And I don't even know anything about you. I just need your money. And once I have your money, relatively low cost, less than a cent or two. I don't need to know anything else. And that was kind of the original sin of the internet. The original sin of the internet is that I had to sell advertising to make money off of you benefiting from my service indirectly, because I can't accept payments over the internet because it wasn't really possible. People used to think that Jeff Bezos was on crack when they said, you're going to make an e-commerce site. Okay, so he proved that's possible on fiat, but even with fiat, it's completely clumsy. It's completely batch. I think we're going to look back on this era of fiat paying for $20, $30, $40 a month subscriptions to things the same way we look at mainframes. I don't know if people in the back remember mainframes and wait in line to compute something, right? In the same way that you had to used to have to do that, now you can use microservices on AWS for much cheaper, right?
It's going to be the same.
Whoop. Oh, okay. Am I doing something wrong? Okay. It's burning out.
Should be.
Let's switch to the new one. Anyway, in the same way that we used to have to batch services and have to share time on a mainframe, now instead of batching transactions, instead of batching these credit card services, we're going to be able to just do them micropayments, onesie, twosie, 1 cent, 2 cent, less than a cent. We're going to be able to send tiny transactions to each other in a way that was never before possible. And now, instead of signing up for the New York Times for $20 a month, you're going to just buy the article for 5 cents and just move on with your life. And they don't have to spy on you to do that, right? So I think this is the future of the internet. So in view of all of this, what are some of the things that you can do? I would say the first thing that you can do is to stop doing things, because that's easier than starting to do new things. And I would say the number one thing you need to do is minimize your digital footprint. So number one, I would say remove your docs social media. Personally, I have no social media. I guess except for Nostr, because I'm kind of peer pressured to that. But I'm already doxxed. Don't do what I'm doing. If you can remain anonymous, just remain anonymous. I'm at Pleb Lab. Oh shoot, did it die? No, it just cuts out. All right. I'm at Pleb Lab, so I'm kind of screwed anyway. I think the feds probably already know who I am at this point, but if you can avoid my fate, then I would avoid that car's looking at me right now. Anyway, I would say...
Hopefully we convert them to Bitcoiners, right?
Yeah, we'll convert the feds. Anyway, so I would say just remove your social media if you can, or at least be mindful. Consider going anonymous, right? Or if you do have social media, be very, very mindful of what you do post. You know, I was an idiot 16-year-old. I posted a lot of stuff I'm not proud of. I'm hoping that the NSA didn't pick that up. We'll see, I don't know. But, you know, just be mindful what you're posting, right? So those are probably the top ones. Social media is like, you know, this is you volunteering information to be used against you by somebody that doesn't care about you, right? So I would say just be very careful with that. And also just, you know, on the money front, consider using cash or Bitcoin for sensitive purchases. Don't buy anything that you wouldn't want traced with your credit card. And in general, just use better tools. So kind of have a whole list of what to stop using, what to start using. I started the text is small. I did my best to kind of align it with this meme. But I would say, you know, in general, browsers, think about your browsers. Do not use Chrome. Google's entire business model revolves around them spying on you. I'm disappointed to find that even Bitcoiners that I thought were really cool still use Chrome. You get off Chrome, do not use Chrome. Gmail, same story, they're reading every message that you write. I would say vanilla SMS, that stuff, you have no idea how long the company's storing that for, especially AT&T. I think down here, you know, are just full on AT&T shills. I would not use SMS for anything sensitive. iMessage, I would avoid using. There's a caveat. There's some things you can do to improve your OPSEC. With iMessage, you can actually take custody of your private keys. If you want to know how to do that, come up here. I'll tell you how. It's called the Advanced Data Protection Program. You can take it. Take charge of your private keys. iCloud, same story. I wouldn't use that. But if you're going to use it, use Advanced Data Protection. Telegram is one that I see a lot of Bitcoiners using. Telegram is literally an FSB PSYOP. You can literally point to people on their cap table and be like, yep, they're in the Russian intelligence, they're in the Russian intelligence, don't use it. I honestly would just refuse to join a group if people tell me to. It doesn't even matter how vital it is, just out of protest. I'm not gonna use the Russian PSYOP. So that's that. Social media DMs, you know, be careful, they can read everything that you're doing. KYC Bitcoin, you know, this is a Bitcoin meetup. I would say, you know, if you can, find somebody at this meetup that's willing to sell you some Bitcoin for some cash if you want to buy some. Don't tie your identity to your Bitcoin. Use CoinJoins if you know how to use them. If you don't, come up here, I'll teach you how. Stock Androids or iPhones, both of them completely doxed. You're on their chessboard. You're using their system. You have no idea how it works. A lot of it's closed source. At least Android's open source, but I would argue not secure for sure. It definitely has Google spyware installed, especially on your keyboard. So I would say, you know, go to Graphene as soon as you can. So those are that's the stop doing list. And now that I'm done yelling at you, you know, what should you start doing? I'd say first thing you should do when you get home, if you're not already, download Molvad VPN, purchase it with non-KYC Bitcoin. That's going to immediately upgrade your OPSEC. Basically what the VPN does is it encrypts your traffic so your internet service provider can't read you. If you buy with Bitcoin, it's really hard for Molvad to understand who you are because they actually don't even keep your email or keep anything about you. They just have an account number associated with this amount of Bitcoin, and they track that and just make sure that you're up to snuff and that you're paying. So what that does is it gives you the freedom to browse the internet without having anyone reading your traffic and knowing where you're from or what you're doing. So that would be the number one thing. Next I would say is use a private browser like a Brave browser. That's what I use. It's open source. You audit it. It's great. Proton Mail, end-to-end encryption. Signal, Matrix, Sphinx for your chats. So I know a lot of people know about Signal. I have some of my doubts about them. I'm skeptical of anything that requires you to use someone else's servers. So ideally you're gonna move, and I think in the next couple of years the technology is gonna get better. I'm personally working on Sphinx, working on a new innovation that will allow you to just encrypt and decrypt everything right on the client, so it'll be impossible for anyone to decipher the source, destination, or content of your messages, so we'll get into that later. StartOS, I don't know if anybody runs StartOS. Tom, do you run StartOS? Do you run StartOS? Yeah. So StartOS, do you run it?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so StartOS, it's a repackaged of Linux, but the beauty of that is you can run all kinds of open source software like Bitcoin Core, different packagings of Lightning from LND to Core Lightning, a bunch of other apps. You can run SimpleX, which is a very private messenger, all kinds of different things you can run on your own hardware. You can basically make sure that whoever you normally would trust with running your hardware isn't going to rug you and report you to the government. So there's that. Alan Auth. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. Alan Auth is literally you pay nothing, but you just sign a message with your Lightning node that says, "Yep, I'm a real person. I'm this person. Let me into your site." There's certain sites like Stacker News. Our buddy Keon runs that site over in Austin. That's one example. There's a couple others. Sphinx actually lets you do that too. I don't know about too many others, but I think this is going to start being more commonplace. And especially as we as a group start collectively demanding more private products, I think this will be more possible. And this will make it possible so that you can prove that you're a human and you don't even have to spend money. You don't have to authenticate or give up any personally identifiable information. All they know is that you signed a message that you actually have Bitcoin, and they don't have anything else, right? Am I about right with that, Tom? Yeah.
I don't have to put a chip in me?
Yeah, you don't have to put a chip in you. Yeah, so I went off, great technology. I've been pretty doomer this whole time. I've been pretty pessimistic, but I think Bitcoin and encryption in general offers you a lot of protection in the form of this stuff. Private Bitcoin, like I said, buy non-KOC Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin from someone here that's willing to sell it to you. Use proxy services. So I actually created one. It's called Cascdr. I'll show it to you in a second. And then I would say, the last one's probably the hardest. You can look at a lot of this. I'm probably doing about 50 to 60% of this stuff. I still need to get myself off all this stuff. This is the one that's probably the hardest, which is just get your phone off of stock Android or iPhone, because it's totally, it's totally controlled by Apple. As we know, Apple's been pressured by the government. We just found out today that they're forced to give up the notification messages. So even like a third-party, app, if you're just messaging friends, the government can read that. So, Apple's totally doxed. Probably Google even more so. I'd even argue that Google is just the CIA. It's my opinion. But the beauty is that they made their software open source. So somebody forked that and then made something called Graphene, which lets you take total sovereignty over everything. It's hyper-focused on privacy and security, so I would recommend getting into that. That's kind of the hard mode, but somebody like a Tom, somebody else here, I think, especially me personally, I'm like at the end of my life. The only reason I still have an iPhone is because I need it for work, because I develop applications on it. Otherwise, I would just already be on Graphene. But I think that is that's probably the biggest step. It's probably the most difficult step, but it's probably like the biggest step you could take in protecting your privacy. Probably the easiest one would be the VPN. I'll iterate that again. Use a VPN. It costs you almost nothing. You pay $50 a year. That peace of mind to know that it's at least a little more difficult for these corporations, governments to track you.
Did you say which ones you like
I would use Nord. I would say Molbad's the best because they don't take your personal information. My concern about these other ones is, basically so what you're doing is you're encrypting your traffic between your phone or whatever to the final destination. I wouldn't put it past a Nord to decrypt your information along the way and then sell that. And I bet you they do that. Knowing that Molbad is a little more ideologically driven, and they use Bitcoin, so at least it's like, they'd have to do a significant amount of work to figure out who you are. They could track your IP, they could do some other stuff, they could try to figure out where you got your Bitcoin if it's non-KYC, or if it is KYC, right? If it has been tied to a name. But just knowing them, they're a little more ideologically driven, so I would highly recommend them over Nord.
So if you had a choice between, like, say, AT&T for internet, AT&T Twisted Pair, which is only like 75 speed, or 2 meg Google Fiber, or Starlink, which of those three would you take?
If you put a gun in my head and said I can't use a VPN, then I guess I would take Starlink.
No,
If you use a VPN, none of that matters because you encrypt your traffic anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the point. Yep. So that's a great question. That's the
Yeah,
point.
I only have that stupid Twisted Pair, and I have Google Fiber in my neighborhood, but I just hate the idea of giving Google any money.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that, and I'm the same way. I would say use Molbad.
Yeah, I think I'll switch.
And if you use Molbad, then they can't track you. The beauty of a company like AT&T, I guess we kind of proved recently that they're willing to give up as much information as possible to the government. However, in a lot of cases, they're too lazy to use your information. Whereas I think a NordVPN, not only are they going to take your money, they're going to say, okay, we're going to sell your data, right? Because they have the ability, because they write all the software, they can decrypt it all in flight and figure out what you're doing and sell that. And probably it's only commercial purposes, but I don't even want that. I want no rewards for people spying on me. So I think Molbad's probably the best option. It's entirely possible that they're doing some shady stuff too. I think eventually we'll come up with an even better solution where it's a topology where it's impossible for them to spy on you, but for now I'd say that's the best solution. Does anybody else have anything to say, Car?
I think we covered it all. I don't know. What do you think about RoboSats? Do you think that's
not RoboSats? I have not personally used it. I'm personally a BISC man. I think just in general, just being able to get non-KYC sats, at least make it, the theme of this you could say is making yourself expensive to tyranny, right? So, you're never going to be perfect. If they really want to put a bug on your freaking phone, then you're probably screwed anyway. Yeah. But, at least make it harder for them, make it more expensive, make it expensive to tyranny, right? So, getting into, we talked about what can you do as far as what can you start using. I would say the first thing is, I threw a lot at you, do not be discouraged. I would say slowly back yourself out of the panopticon, take 1 or 2 steps at a time, all right? So take what I'm saying, if you remember 10, 20% of that, I'll be very proud, pat you on the back. Start taking steps to remove yourself from this stuff, because privacy really is a public good. It's not just for me, it's not just for you. The more of us that remove ourselves from this bullshit, the sooner these surveillance economies collapse, the sooner the bullshit that the government's pulling is going to become apparent and impotent. So take that to heart. Don't get discouraged.
Well, a lot of the apps I've noticed now, like just like local ones, like my local bakery or even HEB. If you're on your VPN, you can't connect to their app.
I've noticed that too.
I think one thing that you left out there is cash, man.
I said cash.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
As your phone, your face buried in your phone.
I'm sorry.
It's too many hot girls hitting you off guard.
Yeah, I mean, you should put it in there, though. Just saying.
So no way around that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way around that is go to the HEB store and harass the shit out of the person standing there. I mean, keep in mind it might be a 17-year-old kid, but go find the manager and just harass them.
You know what though? I haven't tried connecting to the VPN to like another state. other than Texas, and then
Okay.
try to get in. I've usually just used other countries, so maybe that's it.
Yeah, it hurts you when you're going overseas. I typically keep my VPN in the country. I would use Molvad. Are you currently using Nord?
Yeah.
Get out of Nord. I don't know what they're doing. I would suspect they're selling your data upstream. Get on Molvad. I'll split it with you if you want. I'll send you $25. It's like $50 a year. Get you off it. Privacy is the public good.
What do you think about like using your own VPN? Like me, like I have like my own like PFSense at home, and I use T-Mobile for like the home thing. But what do you think about having my own PFSense and then running my own open VPN?
So you asked me, what do you think about running your own VPN? It can be a good idea. Depends on your threat model. I would say the biggest problem with that is once you dox or sign into a service on your thing, you know that that's far. And there's no anonymity set.
Yeah,
so the beauty of like a Molvad is thousands of people are on the same endpoint as you, the same IP as you.
I'm trying to like keep it to where like if I'm working at work, right? I want to make sure all my information is going through my own like internet, with my own VPN. But like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, obviously that's a bad thing. But
I think hosting your own gets you security, but not privacy.
Right.
So,
okay.
like, to your use case, your threat model is like you want to be sure that when you're sharing Wi-Fi, that the other people on there can't read your
Yeah, I
bits.
hang out with people like this guy. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I'm worried about.
And so it will accomplish that, right? It's gonna send your bits to your house encrypted. No one can tap into that. And then from your house, it just goes out. So it gives you security from people around you, but it doesn't give you privacy because those bits, once they hit your house, they're encrypted.
I already hacked you, Tom.
So Tom, thanks.
I already hacked. Oh, you're boring. You're too Catholic.
So is there a way, Tom, where maybe you know this, Jim, is there a way where I can do what I'm doing right now, but maybe at home I can then obfuscate something from that end, like on the VPN, like on my PS.
You could connect to Molvad after that. I'm trying to think of
like what can I use to that'd be kind of base, like.
Well, one interesting idea would be to create a protocol where you could network with other people running VPNs and then just route each other's requests through there.
And no one knows who it was.
Yeah, and then you don't have to trust a single service. You just honestly you could do it. Honestly, that's the beauty of Bitcoin and Lightning is that you'd be like, here's some sats, here's my request, just do it for me. Be my data bitch. Do it for me, right? And then you
So
can
maybe-
drop mine or Odell's or whoever's, right?
So maybe there's like an IPsec tunnel that I can set up.
Yeah, that would be an idea. I'm not a networking expert. Probably Tom knows more.
Me and Tom are networking guys, so we could set up an IPsec tunnel that could, you know what I'm talking about, right? That would share keys on both sides.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I am not actually a networking person.
Oh, I thought you were.
No, but
Well, you can set up an IPsec tunnel.
Yeah.
Because typically, whenever you run a business, like a small, medium-sized business, typically it's a lawyer's office that has 2 locations across the span of, let's say San Antonio, north and south. You'll run an IPsec tunnel between them, and they share information like they're on the same network.
Right. But I'm thinking really what you're wanting is you just want your so you're using PFSense. I don't use PFSense, but
It's open source.
you want your device that's at your house to have a VPN client on it. So you VPN into your house, and then the network there points to Molvad.
L402's fixed this.
Wait, so from...
I'm an L402 maximalist, so the word L402, the idea is just, you want to send me data, pay me money.
So it sounds like...
That's it, and so you can use Bitcoin, because we have Lightning, we have really low cost and instant transaction fees. It can be like, okay, I want Car to process data for me, here's 100 sats. I can do that, send them the data, he'll do it, and right, we have a deal. So the beauty of that is, as a sender, I have almost perfect privacy. And Lightning have very good privacy as a sender, so I have he has no fucking idea where it's coming from. I could even send it to another proxy and retrieve it on another proxy and then pull it down. So obviously there's a lot of engineering mechanics to go around that, but I think L402s are a revolution for the internet personally, because we incurred so much technical debt from the fact that we couldn't do payments reliably. And then we figured out credit cards, and it's like, okay, we do credit cards, but it's 3% plus 30 cents plus surveillance plus, however long the settlement takes plus chargebacks. So it's like with the Bitcoin, we just kill all that bullshit immediately. So I'm pretty bullish on that stuff. I'll get into my project after this. This discussion wasn't free. I'm gonna show you a couple of my projects. Anyway, so I'd say don't be discouraged. Encryption's your friend. The state has all the guns, but if you have encryption, that's an asymmetric weapon that you can use against. I wouldn't call it a weapon. It's an asymmetric tool you can use against them that protects you from them. Use encryption, especially VPNs. I'd say that's the number one thing. So master the tools, VPNs, non-KYC Bitcoin. Bitcoin fundamentally is encryption, weaponized for protecting your money and your personal bank account, okay? Run your own node. If you can't run your own LLM, this is kind of new. This is uncharted territory. Probably in maybe 6 months I'll be back. I'll talk about the stuff I'm doing with this. I'm really passionate about AI and ensuring that we make sure that it maintains privacy and sovereignty. Okay. Educate your friends and family. Like I said, privacy is a public good. If you're totally based in, anonymous, but your mom is doxing everything, your mom's sending your DNA, her DNA to 23andMe, it's probably bad, probably doxed. So just be conscious of that. So the other thing you can do is you can support projects that respect privacy. So I'd say it's the 3 T's: time, treasure, talent. So if you can, give your time, train other people how to use good tools, spend your money where, on good tools. Some good examples would be Muni Lightning Wallet. So the guys out of Austin, great guys. They're really militant about privacy, respect those guys a lot. Start9 Labs, start running StartOS. If you can't buy a NUC from them, flash it with StartOS. Use BISC, which is a non-KYC exchange. I have my own projects called Cascdr. I'll explain to you how and why. It helps you maintain privacy even while using state-of-the-art AI tools like ChatGPT or Whisper. And just in general, stay vigilant, okay? So that's what you can do.
So on running your own node, besides just being like altruistic or benevolent and contributing to the network as one check mark, and then being able to check your own Bitcoin balances without going to anybody else's server, what are the other reasons to run your own node?
So one I would say is it will enforce the rules that you want to see enforced. So people may try to, a good example would be the fork wars, when people tried to change the rules of Bitcoin and make it more favorable to big companies. And a bunch of people running those said, no, fuck you, we're not doing that. We're gonna just keep running this previous version.
So you'd just be like adding another man
It's your
to the
veto.
army.
They kept saying, not my president during the Trump presidency. You say, not my Bitcoin. It's the same idea, right? So it's that veto
So
power.
it's the nodes, not the miners?
The miners don't have shit. Without the nodes, they ain't shit.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I would say in general. And the other thing is, you talk about validating your own balance. I mean, it's validating your own balance and also just being able to check how many Bitcoin there are. So it's kind of a public good, but it's important for you too, right? You don't want someone to say, hey, there's 22 million Bitcoin now. That would hurt your investment significantly, right? So there's that, and then there's also just, if I handed you a paper bag and said, here's 10 pounds of gold, just trust me, bro. You wouldn't trust me, right? So now
Well,
when
I'm starting to not trust my block clock mini, because for like a whole month now, it's saying there's 2.309 million coins on the exchanges, and that number hasn't changed for like 2 months.
Yeah,
And I'm like, no way.
I buy it. Anyway, so just being able to verify that people are handing real gold. Think about the beauty of this. So, people talk about gold, they talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is such a step, and I think this is one of the things that Bitcoin just dunks on gold so hard that people don't think about is, I want to take a piece of gold, let's say it's worth $50,000, and I want to prove that it's real. I got to pay $500 or whatever to have a goldsmith verify it for me. I can run free and open source software to prove that millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin is both real and mine. That's unheard of. So I think that alone is a killer. Why it's so much better than
Yeah, you don't have to convince me on Bitcoin versus gold.
I'm looking at the demographics, but at the same time, it's like, you think about that. I'm an engineer. I get autistic about like trade-off analysis, and it's like that's what sold me on Bitcoin. Is like, okay, this is fiat, this is gold, this is Bitcoin. Check. I can look at, and that's one of the biggest checks for me is you can verify in real time. It's so easy, and it costs nothing. That's incredible.
Yep.
All right. So showing you my projects, I work on Sphinx. This is a part of another company called Stackwork. They do a lot of things with AI, but they also are building an end-to-end encrypted chat. I would say the most basic comp of this would be like WeChat or WhatsApp, but with Bitcoin. So you can actually host Sphinx chat on your Lightning node. You can send end-to-end encrypted messages and payments or consume podcasting 2.0. We actually helped invent podcasting 2.0 along with Adam Curry. Each message is actually a transaction. You have full control over the entire server. It's all run on FOSS software. And so that's kind of the status quo. Coming soon, we'll have the Swarm plus the key. So the Swarm will let you not even have to buy your own hardware and run it on your own NUC or whatever. You can actually run it in the AWS. You encrypt everything with a key and you just hold this little tiny, it's called a key, it's like a little tiny circuit board about this big, you just connect it to your internet, and it'll make sure that nobody's trying to rug you and send huge transactions through, but you set certain rules, and it'll sign certain kinds of transactions, it'll accept certain kinds of messages, and basically you have total sovereignty all for the price of a $20 thing that's about this big. So interesting stuff. That's a pretty big innovation. It's on a new technology called Greenlight. So really good stuff there. So you basically get the benefits of running in the cloud. You don't need specialized hardware, but you get all the encryption that stays in your house. So that's the beauty of that. Likewise, there is something we're calling Sphinx V2, so I'm actually actively developing on that. I was just working on that this morning. It's called Onion Encrypted. It uses a technique called onion encryption, which basically says, if I want to send a message to Tom, but I got to go through Fred, I'll encrypt it so that I know that Fred can decrypt, and I wrap it up such that encrypts it with my keys, then encrypts it with Fred's keys, then encrypts it with Tom's keys, and I send it to Fred. Actually, I wouldn't encrypt it with my own keys. It would just be Fred's keys and then Tom's keys. I send it to Fred. Fred would decrypt it, but still for him it's encrypted. Then he sends it to Tom. Tom unwraps it, and then he gets the message. But as far as Fred's concerned, I could have sent it to the people in the back. I could have sent it to anyone here. They have no idea. It's a total mess. So it obfuscates both the source and destination of messages and also the content. So it's a huge improvement. A lot of things like Signal. Okay, they can't read your messages, but they can see who's talking to who. So that's dangerous, right? Yeah. So just keep that in mind. We're using the Holy Grail is they can't understand the content, the source, or the destination. Okay. Okay. Lastly, talking about Cascdr. This is my own personal project. I did this for a hackathon, and I'm really excited about it.
No, I just want to say real quick, because you're not going to say it, so because you're too humble. But what Jim just created right here, there's this popular AI website called Hugging Face, and it's the most fiat AI application site that you can use. But it's cool. Don't get me wrong, it's really cool. He's basically creating that, but on Bitcoin, and that Hugging Face has raised over $300 million on the fiat side, on the fiat VC side. Cascdr has potential of actually going in there and taking some of that market share, because what Jim is building is revolutionary, and I think this has the possibility to be that. So I just want to say that because I know he won't. That's why I'm talking. He's taking on the fiat side of AI.
Art and I did a podcast on Thriller, Bitcoin. Listen to it. We talked in length about a lot of the themes we talked about today, and also, what Cascadr is, what I hope it will be. But basically, I'm trying to make an app that is useful, fun, and private. Pretty heavy lift, but Lightning makes it easy. And I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, great people that have made it easier to use L402s. So we implemented L402s. We created an entire Nostr implementation. Was it plan? I don't know. We created our own NIP that lets us broadcast API services, say what they cost, what the inputs are, what the outputs are, and just put it on the internet, and people can find that wherever they choose to. There's no rent seeking. It's all completely decentralized. And what I hope to do with this is just showcase how private apps are not only as good, but they're better than what's already out there. Because a lot of the time what happens with private apps is they're like, it's a little worse, but I know it's keeping me private, so I like it, right? I want to make something that's even better, and I think Lightning gives us the opportunity to do that, because it gives us an incredible opportunity to pay for and monetize services anonymously with low fees and instant settlement. I think this is something the fiat world is totally written off. I think even a lot of the Bitcoin world isn't aware of. This is revolutionary. This is the stuff that the original people on the internet were probably creaming their pants over. 402 comes from, I don't know if any of you know HTTP. It's how you make requests to websites. 200s are basically like, yep, you got the correct result. 404, everyone's seen that. 404 means it's not available. 402 means you gotta pay me. Okay, that's all it means. So that's what L402 means, is you gotta pay me with Lightning. Okay, so 402 probably, I don't even know if I've ever seen it before other than in a Lightning application, right? So they kind of planned this out and said, well, maybe someday we'll have magic money that we can use to do payments. Well, they know it was going to be Bitcoin, it was going to be revolutionary, okay? So that's what L402s offer. And with my application, you're able to anonymously use services like ChatGPT, text to image, YouTube, voice to text, image to text. Okay, you can use each of those independently. You can also chain them together. Currently, I have 3 examples. My hope is to make it totally abstract, where you can use any example. You can construct your own example. You can construct your own workflow. This is the site right here. It all designed it myself. If you don't like it, then you can come bitch at me right now. But the basic premise is, for example, this one ties a large language model, ChatGPT, to a text-to-image model, so I could say, hey, I want you to make me a skyline of San Antonio. Okay, and I just hit run. Whoop. I just hit run. It's gonna take a little bit. It's gonna ask for my money from Albie.
So ideally, the person that's getting paid for this that Jim's running right now would be somebody running like a Start 9.
Yep. Start 9 or like early voltage node. Yep. Okay, so it's taking time. It's gonna take about 15 seconds. So what it's doing is taking my very shitty, lazy request of skyline of San Antonio. It just wrote a whole paragraph. You all can see that because it's kind of small, but it just wrote like 5 sentences about the beautiful skyline of San Antonio. We'll see what it comes out with. We're waiting for the text to image. We're waiting for the text to image to come back. It's gonna take a little bit.
So for
Boom. And that's the skyline of San Antonio. I don't know if that's any good. It almost looks like New York to me, but it did its best, right?
Okay.
So yeah, and I'm totally anonymous, right? And so normally, not only would you have to pay at least $10, $20 a month.
It's gonna go even higher. Right?
Yeah, it's gonna be $20, $50 a month for each of these services. You pay 3 cents anonymously. You give up none of your privacy.
And you help a pleb stack 21 Bitcoin.
Exactly. You help the pleb stack. Okay, so that's one of the examples. I have another example where you can just plug in a YouTube URL and get out the transcription. I'm not going to do that one right now. It's a little more boring. This one's interesting. I have actually 3 examples in here. One of them lets you take a picture of an item and then appraise its value in sats, because as we all know, we're going to sell all of our belongings for sats in preparation for the bull run. I plan to be homeless soon. But one example is I'm going to attach a book of Neuromancer by William Gibson. Has anybody ever read that book? I didn't show it to you, but I assure you that is what I'm attaching. So it's going to take its time. It's going to take the image in. It's going to analyze it on ChatGPT, and then once it analyzes it, it's going to ask the follow-up question: exactly how much is this worth? And it's going to tell me in Bitcoin, based on the price of Bitcoin, how much it's worth. So it's going to take a little bit.
So have you heard of that website pricedinbitcoin21.com?
No, well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
check it out. I'll
it's
give them this
good
plug.
for, I mean, as opposed to not having anything else. It's kind of starts getting you in that mindset of starting to price everything in sets.
All right, so I think this time the LLM tripped out, because usually it says it's worth like $15. This time it says it's worth $500. I'm not opposed. I mean,
Inflation.
it's inflation. It's trying to get me extra sats. So it says it's worth 1.13 million sats. I think that's a little high. Usually it's more like 20 to 30,000 sats, but we'll take it. Basic idea is there. I can't prevent ChatGPT from selling crack to its ChatGPT endpoint, but you get the idea of what's going on here. So,
Does it still save your previous entries or
it actually doesn't, and mostly because I'm lazy. It could, and ideally what I would probably do is put Ellen Auth in here so that I don't have to know anything about you as a human being, but I can keep your history in a way that's respects your privacy. It's probably what I would do. This is a hackathon project. I still got a lot of work to do. Ideally the next big milestone is just make it totally arbitrary. So it's like, okay, I can hook up an LLM into a YouTube video and summarize what it means, right? Like you just take these as building blocks and build whatever you want. And ideally even stack stats, because you're like, hey, I made this cool new thing. I want to deploy it to the cloud and service it as an endpoint. So they're totally modular, and the idea is that basically opens up the internet to entrepreneurs in a way that's unique. And you just stack stats as an anon. I mean, that's my ideal, is to just make that possible for people. I mean, I think it's going to be challenging, but I think I have a path there, and I have some really great people behind me, like R and some other people at Pleb.